So in this session of Photoshop tutorials, I'm going to be going over a few more basic tools that are very critical to being able to use Photoshop effectively and efficiently. So the first of these I want to touch on, which is probably one of the most crucial, is layers and using layers. And layers is really important if you want to learn how to use Photoshop in a non-destructive way. This basically means that you're working using layers, you're adding layers with each individual change that you're making so that you can return to and quite easily toggle between what you've changed in previous iterations. And it just makes things easier because you can always return back to something. You can always see what changes you made quite clearly without working in a destructive way, which would mean that you cannot return to your original quite easily. Um, so you should be able to find your layers panel here. I have it naturally in my workspace here. In this tab, there's just a layers. If you can't find it there, then you can always go on Window and then find the layers and make sure that panel is nested into your toolbar. Another way to view your layers menu is in the top toolbar where you'll see layers, and you'll find here that you can do all these commands to basically add layers into your workspace. So if I if at the moment you'll see that there's in the layers it just has my background. So this is because I've just created a new white document. So I can just I can see that it's locked, and this will automatically Photoshop will automatically lock the background layer, which means that you won't be able to make changes to it. But if I wanted to create a new layer and work on top of it, then I can either just press this icon here, which is a little plus icon, and it will create a new layer. Or you can go File in Layer, and then New and Layer, and it will also create a layer, and it will give you some options to name the layers, as you can see there. You'll see that there's the layer gives you an option to name the layer. I find it very useful to keep your names organized, so to keep naming your layers. So if you double click on the writing on the title, you'll be able to change the layer name, and so you can kind of change and color, and it will just make it easier to kind of see what each layer is doing, just based on how you like to organize things. One thing that you can also do is to group layers. What this is a further way of basically organizing your workspace and your layers. You can do this by selecting the two layers. So you do this by if you click and then shift click on the next layer, then you can select multiple layers. And you'll see that they're selected if they're both highlighted in gray like this, lighter gray. And then if I right click on it, I can see that there's the option to group from these layers, and I'll group, and as you can see, it groups the layers together. You can also press Control G, is another way to group the layers together. And as you can see, it's kind of made this folder icon, and then it's put those two layers in the folder. So this is a good way of basically just further way of keeping it organized. You can also, if you're doing things like adjustments, you can place them in the group, and it only does adjustments to that one group of layers. So basically another way of subdividing your layers. You can also, one thing that you can do is to change the stacking order of your layers. So basically what this does is it will change which layers appear above the other. So if, for example, I were to paint a line on this layer, or some scribbles, and then I did a different scribble on this, you'll see that at the moment, because layer 2, the red scribble, I'll rename those. The red scribble is above the green one in this order. It will appear above it, but if I move, click and drag this red layer below the green, it will change the stacking order, so the green will appear above the red. So that's kind of a hard and fast rule in terms of layers, is that the one above it should appear on the one as the top view. So you can always kind of change the stacking. If you wanted to toggle the visibility of these layers, you can always just click the eye icon on the left, and if I click on it and it's unchecked with the eye, then it will just hide that layer, but it won't permanently get rid of it. You can just toggle the icon again, and it will reappear quite easily. Another thing to note is that you can use layer masks. So layer masks basically allow you to show and hide the layer below it in a non-destructive way. And so in a similar way to basically how these two stack, if I were to create a layer mask, it would be creating an area of transparency in the layer that will show to the layer below it. So it would be kind of similar to if I were to delete this green here. If I were to just use this eraser tool, then I'm deleting this green area here, but it's permanently deleting it, so I won't be able to see it again because I permanently deleted it. But if I were instead to use a layer mask, so the way to do it is you'll find that there's this icon here with a kind of circle at the bottom with inside a rectangle lets you add a layer mask. You can also find this in the layers menu with the layer mask. You can create one from here. If I add a layer mask to this layer, basically it's created a mask, and if I paint in it in black, in white, sorry, if I paint in this mask in white, it's basically adding a mask, so it's masking whatever I'm kind of painting over in black, as you can see. So it's kind of doing the same effect of deleting, but it's actually working non-destructively. So this information is still there. It's just that I'm adding a mask over it to hide it for now. And as you can see, if I were to just show the layer mask, you'll see the kind of shape of the layer mask. It has this kind of scribble there, and it's showing me what I've been masking off, basically, as you can see there. Another key thing to cover is some of the selection tools. So you'll see that there's on the left menu, there's the key one that you might see first of all is the marquee tool. So it's basically just this dotted square grid here. This marquee basically just lets you mark out a box area here. So you can see I can just create a box like so. If I hold the control key, then it kind of locks it to a 1:1 aspect ratio, so as a square. You'll see there's a number of different marquee options. So there's elliptical marquee tool, which is if I want more of a elliptical or circle. If I want it to be a circle, I can just hold shift, or if I just hold shift, it will lock it to just a circle. And then you'll see kind of some other, maybe the single row, single column, which are just kind of lines to marquee off. But one thing that you can do with the marquee is you can actually add or subtract from your selection if you redraw different marquee selections. So if I wanted to maybe create a box and then to subtract from this box, you'll see in this top menu here that there's a number of options as to how, if I select off two different areas, how they'll interact. So I could either add to the selection. If I draw a circle here, you'll see that it adds this selection here. But if I wanted to subtract, then I could select this this icon, and then I'll draw a circle, and as you can see, it subtracts from the selection like this. And then this selection basically excludes the intersecting areas, or includes, as in that case. Another useful tool is the lasso tool, which you'll probably use more often if it's something you're selecting that has a lot more edges. So the marquee tool is very useful if it's very simple geometric shape type selections that you want. But the lasso tool lets you basically mark out an area which might have more edges and be a bit more complex. So the first tool you'll see is the lasso tool, which basically lets you select out an area freeform, so you can draw out your area like this. If you just click and hold and then make sure you complete the shape, and it will draw out an area like so. You can also use the polygonal lasso tool, which will basically draw out straight lines in your selection automatically. So you can draw out if it's more of a straight line shape that you're trying to draw out. If I wanted a straight line with my lasso, I can just hold Shift and then draw, and it will lock it to either the X or Y axis to make it straight. So I can still draw out a rectangle if I want. And then the magnetic lasso tool will automatically will try and guess an edge of basically the layer that you're on. So if, for example, I wanted to lasso out this little kind of scribble that I've drawn, then I can always do that just by using the magnetic lasso and going around the edge, and it will try and take that edge for me and lasso that out.